Hi everyone, my name is Holly Conley and I am your instructor for MHR7830 for this block. We are going to be doing a project that is a big part of your grade, so I wanted to make sure I provided some information in week 1 before you try to get started. So I'm already clicked into the week 1 module, and you'll see project information as the first one that deals with our project. And you'll see that there's a link here that takes you to a Word document that gives you all the requirements for the project. You'll also see that there's a rubric down here. So we're going to go through both of those documents, but I wanted to point out that for week 1, all you're doing is choosing a company name and submitting your annual report, either link or a PDF document, so that when you're doing your project, you're using a set of numbers, and whatever is posted in the discussion board for your company choice will be the file that I'll use to grade it. It's important that we're both using the same information. So if for some reason you end up using a different link, you need to make sure you update it in the discussion board and let me know so that I use the same information when I'm grading it. Now, 2019 should be the most recent annual report. It does say here that 19 may not be published yet, but most of them are published by now. So, once you choose your company, you're looking for the 2019 annual report. So let's get into the project information. I'm going to open up the Word file first. And again, we're evaluating an annual report. So we're choosing an annual report for a publicly traded company. The reason it has to be a publicly traded company is because privately held corporations are not required to publish an annual report. Only publicly traded companies have to, and that's because they have to file it with the SEC. So the goal is just to take the concepts we learn in our class, more so in the beginning of the class, and apply it to analyze a company. It's going to give you exposure to the financial statements, to the notes to the financial statements, and allow you to use the analysis that we learn in our book. So I want to point out that it is a written paper. We are going to use APA format. The final paper is due Sunday of week 6. I do not accept any late projects. If you need additional time, you need to reach out to me way ahead of time, and we need to figure out why and get a plan. It is, again, APA format. If you need help with that, there is a file that you can use to make sure that you have the right format. Now, when I say APA, that means you need a title page, you need an abstract, you need the content of your paper, you need references, you need to use in-text citations where you're citing throughout the paper where you use that information, including the page number. You also are going to have an appendix that's going to include your calculations for the ratios, which we'll get to in just a minute. So for week 1, all you're doing is submitting the company you're choosing as well as their annual report link or PDF. That way, it's in the discussion board. When you're doing your report, you have an easy link to refer back to. But the other side of that is when I'm grading it, I'm going to use that link. It's important we both use the same link so that if there's a discrepancy or you don't find something, I'm able to refer you to where it is. Now, with that said, again, you should primarily be using your annual report for all information. The only other place you should use another resource is going to be Yahoo Finance. So unless you have approval from me, those should be the only 2 resources. So everything you're going to need is in the annual report. I wouldn't ask you to find it in there if it's not. The exception is going to find the stock information for part 1B, where I'm asking you to find out which exchange it's traded on, this company's ticker symbol, and the current price of stock, as well as the 52-week high and low. Those you're going to be able to find on Yahoo Finance. Everything else will be in your annual report. So when we're looking at this for week 1, again, you're just submitting your company name and your link. This should be done by Thursday of week 1. All right, so let's look at the requirements for the project. It's broken down into sections. Remember, when you're using APA, there are headings you're going to use. So your first heading is going to be description of the company. You're then going to discuss in written paragraph format the topics that I'm asking you to discuss. You'll separate the paragraphs for A and B, but they are going to all be in one section. Next, you're going to go into your next section, which is the income statement. Now, the income statement, this is where we're looking at a financial statement, which you'll learn more about when we get into the chapters. You're going to be looking at what happened over the time period from one year to another. So all you're doing in both the income statement and the balance sheet, when I say trends, you're looking at a trend from one year to another. We're going to keep it simple and just do 2 years. But I want to know what happened with sales, what happened with cost of goods sold, expenses, and with net income. Those are all on the income statement, which you'll learn soon. I wanted you to tell me, did they increase? Did they decrease? If they did, by how much in dollars? And what percent did they increase? You can also use graphs if you choose, but the graphs don't replace the written part. They are there to supplement it. I want you to discuss what happened with revenues. Did they increase or decrease? And then discuss, what does management say about revenues? And there is a discussion in your report where they're going to talk about that. I want you to be able to look at the income statement and tell if the company is profitable and what line tells you that. And then discuss what the company says about future earnings. The next section goes into the balance sheet. For the balance sheet, I want you to talk about what the trends are in the main sections, the assets, the liabilities, and stockholders' equity. So overall, what does it look like? And then I want you to dive in a little deeper and look at specific accounts and tell me what happened with them. Did they increase? Did they decrease? By what dollar amount? By what percentage? Those are all things you're going to learn in the chapter as far as analysis. So it's important to make sure that you're using those tools. Then I want you to look and tell me how many shares of stock the company has issued. That's something you're going to learn how to tell. What is the par value? If they had preferred stock, treasury stock, if they paid any dividends. So these questions are here to prompt you to know what to look for to discuss for the balance sheet. When we go into the next section, again, I'm asking you to tell me what are you're looking at the 3 main sections, operating, financing, and investing. And I want you to tell whether they had a positive or negative cash flow in each section. And then I want you to tell me the major cash flow items. So it could be cash flow in or cash flow out, but pick the top 2 or 3 items. I don't need a list of everything that went through the cash flow. What were the major items? What were the bigger items in each of those areas? And then I want you to tell me if you had positive cash from operations. Next, we're going to go into something called the common size income statement. This is something we're going to learn how to do in Chapter 3. You are going to be expressing the income statement in percentages. We learn how to do this in Chapter 3. We do a practice one, so you may not be able to do this part until then. But you're going to have the exact same lines in your common size income statement that you prepare that your company has in their income statement, starting at sales all the way down to net income. You don't need to do anything below net income, though. After you do this, remember, you're doing it for 2 years, the most recent year and the previous year. And then you're going to analyze, is it better or worse? And you're going to do it in the same format as you're going to see in Table 3.9 in the book. You don't have to do a written portion as long as you do the analysis portion, whether it's better or worse. If you're unsure, there is a video in week 2, and you can also refer to section 3.6 in your book. The next section goes into the ratio analysis. Now, this is a really important part, and you'll see that on the rubric. The ratio analysis, again, comes from the ratios we learn in Chapter 3. We're evaluating liquidity, activity, debt, profitability, and market ratios. So it lists here the specific ratios you are to calculate. Notice it says you will calculate those for 2 years. After you calculate them, you're going to provide an analysis using the ratio categories. So certain categories are in each of the categories. For example, the current ratio and quick ratio fall under liquidity. So after doing them, you're going to evaluate both of them together. And it's just a matter of, did they improve or did they get worse? We're not asking you to do deep analysis, just to understand what is a good ratio. What does it mean? Is a higher ratio better or is a lower ratio better, depending on which one you're calculating? So in the paper, you're going to have the discussion and the analysis of it. In an appendix, you will show the formula, the calculation, and your answer for each of the 2 years ratios in an appendix. The next section is the auditor's opinion. Now, this is something that's not covered in the book, so it's something you're probably going to have to search online, but it's important to understand as far as financials. In the annual report, they do list what type of audit opinion was issued by the auditors. So I want you to be able to tell me who's responsible for the integrity of it, what company issued that audit opinion, if the company maintains internal controls and why. I want you to be able to tell me what type of audit opinion was issued, and that's the part you might have to Google, and that's okay. If you do, that can be another place that you use another resource and you're going to cite what you used. The last section is just a conclusion, and it says, in your opinion. So this is just your thoughts. What is the most interesting part of the annual report and why? What is your prognosis for the company? Do you see it being good, bad? Do you see them in a decline? And it gives you some topics here that you can talk about. So these are completely up to you. The conclusion is just your opinion and your thoughts. So that is all there is for the actual project. Let's take a look at the rubric. So the rubric is out of 100 points, and you can see that the first criteria is organization. So did you follow the outline that I gave you in the project requirements? If you did all the sections, then you will get the 9 to 10 points. If you miss sections, you'll lose points depending on how many you missed. The next part that is worth 30 points out of the 100 is the ratio analysis and the common size income statement. And you can see here the criteria. This is the actual calculation of both. When you get into the next part, content, that's where we're looking at the analysis. Can you tie the report to what you're writing? And that's true for all sections. So this isn't just the ratios. This is for each of the sections 1 through 9. Then the next criteria is APA formats. That's 10 points of it. And then your professional presentation writing. So do you have errors? Does it make sense? Does it flow well? That's another 10%. So the big percentages come from your writing content, linking it in all of the sections, and the ratio analysis in the common size income statement in those sections. So that's 70% of your grade. So it's really important to make sure you do very well on the written portions of it. If you have any questions for the project, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help. I can only help or explain something in more detail if I know that you have a question. I'm going to also post another video this week going over some of the My Finance Lab information. So good luck this week. Get started on your project. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.